what you've got to do is convince me that what you're doing is the right and proper thing. Because
I
I'm
don't have
an,
to convince you. It's
you
our
do.
it's our clients. No, no, I'm joking. That we have a we have we're a young business that we've been operating now for in 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 total about 5 or 6 years, but actually really in the market for about three. So we actually launched our first car late 2021. Got our first billionaire client actually that year as well, completely unprompted. So somebody that loved what we do, loved the concept. Since then, we've actually we will have created around 20 cars very shortly for similar people, really. So I think we see our success based on what our clients want rather than kind of some of the rest of the market that might be disbelievers, quite
Right.
frankly. But so that's really where we see our kind of success, and we continue to grow. So the background very much is that
Yeah.
we are not here to ruin these cars. These are very much icons of history, but generally speaking, are not used. And that's the reality. So, if you want to go and drive a Mercedes Pagoda on a daily basis, it's actually not very easy to do, as you can imagine, especially for a newer generation that want to enjoy these cars, but actually won't be used to the fact that it might not start in the morning, or it might have leaked oil overnight, or it might let them down at lunchtime. So they want to enjoy something of beauty, but actually in a way that is now very much usable, and something that they can, enjoy. And lots of our clients actually use these cars on a fairly daily basis, which again is not something you'd expect, obviously.
No. So are you effectively resto modding? Is that how you would describe what
So
you're doing?
the term we use is we redefine. We
Right.
redefine a car that was originally designed as a combustion engine. We redefine it in a way that we believe if the manufacturer had had the technology available at the time, this is how they would do it. And that's really important. So we don't just worry about the powertrain. We worry about the dials. We worry about weight distribution. We worry about center of gravity. We worry about brakes, suspension, steering. We are redefining that car in the same way if you are a powertrain engineer for, let's say Bentley. Bentley, a powertrain engineer for Bentley doesn't have any say in what the chassis looks like. He's given a chassis and effectively told, we're creating a powertrain, whether it's a W12 or, V8 or V6 hybrid. They are very much building a new car program from something that is already existing, whether it's in design phase or something else. We see our role is very much the same, which is effectively you're starting with a fixed space, a fixed chassis. Our job is not to cut that chassis, to change that chassis. So essentially, everything we do is entirely reversible. We use that term only because it's the same way, I suppose, as you wouldn't cut the corner off a Rembrandt because it wouldn't quite fit in a,
Mm.
in a frame. We are very much saying that the car and the structure and the beauty of the car is what's important here. But we're now making these attainable and attainable is the wrong word, available to a brand new generation. So that, in a sense, is what we do. So my team is ex JLR, Bentley, Rimac, Lotus. So it's some of the best engineers that Britain have produced, frankly, over the last few years that have had experience designing. Hybrid powertrains for the Artura, EV powertrains on the Evija. We use the same motors as the Valkyrie, as the hybrid motor. We're using McLaren applied in silicon carbide inverters. We're using the very, very best technology, and then we overlay that with our own tech and our own software to make it all fit together.
Right. So, why do you think it's worth taking a car that already exists when you quite possibly have the brain power there to create something brand new, or is that
Yeah, it's a
whole
very good
world of pain?
question. Yeah, I suppose that we are. You're absolutely right. But that probably cost billions. If you
Mm.
look at what Rivian and Lucid, and unfortunately, the world is peppered with car companies that had a great idea and didn't quite make it because they couldn't get funded. What we decided to do is create EVs from cars that people already love, people
Yeah.
already adore, the 964, the Land Rover series, the Pagoda. So So in essence, we've used that kind of methodology to build the brand. Now, what I would say as well is a little known fact that, let's say if you take our Porsche, it looks like a very, very well finished. It's carbon bodied. It looks like a beautifully restored, let's say, turbo bodied car that actually starts life as a very unloved Tiptronic, narrow body Tiptronic, because actually we're just worried about the chassis, right? We're not worried about the fact that no one loved it, and it's actually gone past its sell by date, and we're giving it an entirely new life. So you're absolutely right that we could, and you're absolutely right, we do have 95% probably of the kind of experience in-house to create our own branded car. It's not the current strategy, but never say never. And the great thing about what we do, of course, is that we're able to build a brand that is becoming synonymous with, quality. You can't see it behind me, but the
Mm.
leathers and the quality, the bespoke nature of what we do for our clients. And of course, all of that experience would actually potentially naturally lead to doing something entirely on our own, which as I say, I'll never say never. It's not in the current plan.
No, that's right. But I mean, what is the most expensive part? Now, restoring a classic car is a very expensive business anyway.
It
But
is.
but but what is? I mean, is it the battery tech? Is it the motors? What's the
Yeah.
expensive
So,
part
so,
of it
so
all?
in terms of order of magnitude, I suppose, you know, the the remaking of a car, and I won't just use restoring. Our
Mm.
Porsches are brand new body panels. They're all carbon fiber. So it's really, it's not just it's actually creating a new car out of the kind of chassis of the original. Our Pagodas, most of the panels are brand new. So again, it's not just a bit of filler here and there. It's a true ground up remanufacture almost of that vehicle, but using the original chassis. That original chassis is always, clearly treated and upcycled to the point where it's probably better than new in terms of its protection and all the other good stuff. It's all selected to make sure it's 100% straight. And then the process of kind of rebuilding that car starts. So that's a very expensive process in day one. What I would say though, the way we do it is we have build partners around the world that's all they do. So these aren't companies you can just walk into and say, please restore my E-Type. These
Mm.
guys they've productionized that process really. So they're low volume producers of this type of vehicle. So our Land Rover partner, you couldn't just walk into and ask them to do your series. These are people that actually are doing 20, 30, 40, sometimes a year and actually can scale from there. So yes, so that's a very expensive part. And then you look at our motors. So our motors in our Pagoda, for example, on our GT40, the one single motor alone is probably in excess of £30,000. Whereas people in the conversion market are using motors out of a forklift truck. It's a very, very different business model. So they're very expensive. Silicon carbide inverters are very expensive. And yes, absolutely, the battery. The battery packs for our cars are getting cheaper. But some of them are 40 grand, 40, 50 grand just for a battery pack. So it is an expensive undertaking. Um, but the reason we do it that way is that there are a number of ways of achieving the same goal. I think that, again, the kind of clientele that we appeal to just expect that level of quality, as you might imagine.
Yeah. As you alluded to at the beginning, I mean, basically your customers are the very, very wealthy indeed. But
They tend to be.
yeah, but why are they choosing these cars in particular?
Yeah.
Because I would say the appeal of a classic car is that it might grumble a bit. That
Mm.
makes it more
Yeah.
interesting. So I
It's
take
a
it
good question.
they haven't got the time to be investing any time in something that
No, no, absolutely not. And no, giving you something, I'll give you some client examples. So we have a lady in London. When she had her car delivered, that was about 3 years ago. So she was in her probably mid 40s. She's a mum. She always loved the look of a Land Rover, would never drive an original series. And I don't blame her because if you're trying to keep up in modern traffic, if you're trying to brake without giving it 6 months worth of notice, they're just not fit for modern roads and modern traffic. The reason she loves it, she's got a boho lifestyle. She's got villa in Ibiza. She loves the whole kind of look and feel of a Land Rover series. So she's been using that virtually every day she's had it, and she's got other cars in
Mm.
she's got a Range Rover, she's got various other vehicles. Um, but her lifestyle is that she takes the kids to school, she might go to the gym, she might do other things. Um, where she lives in London, the school district is actually part of the Camden School District. They strongly encourage that you don't bring your car anywhere near the school. I think it's within 3 streets of a school unless it's zero emission. So all her friends have got Teslas or i3s or whatever. She's the cool mum that turns up in a beautiful Land Rover Series 2A that's got teak decking. It's got the highest quality of leather. So she's one example. Matt Rogers, the founder of Nest, so Google Nest, the home energy saving device, he was one of our very first clients. Again, read a piece in Forbes, I think it was, emailed us, and it was actually during COVID. It was quite an interesting one because we had no idea. We had no idea why he chose to do this. And the very first flight I could take from here to LA during, when COVID was kind of passing, I actually went to meet him in a coffee shop in Marin County, in California, which is where one of his offices is. And I said, Matt, why have you done this? You're really intrigued." And he was very open. He said, "Look, Justin, I've always adored the Porsche 911. I've always adored the 964. My dad had one when I was growing up. I grew up in the back of this 964 when I was a kid." Um, but I'm a sustainability tech guy. There's no way I would ever drive a combustion engine car again. He's very, and there's hundreds of, if not thousands of these people in Silicon Valley. But I love the Porsche. So he was very open to say that I've always loved one, but I would never have it if it wasn't electric. Which again might be against certain people's
Mm.
thinking. But there's plenty of people out there like that. Guy called Steve Rimmer, he owns Dirtfish Rally School, so the US's largest rally school. A Brit again, over in Washington. He did it for slightly different reasons. They're a big car family. But he was building this actually for his kids. So actually, he knows that the world they are growing up in is going increasingly EV. It won't be all EV, but it's going increasingly EV. And actually, again, having something that's cool, but also zero emissions is quite interesting. And then last but not least, just one of the other clients we have. He again, wealthy individual. Happens to have a home in Nantucket, so a very expensive part of the world. But this Land Rover series, long wheelbase, was actually in the family for a couple of generations. Again, he wants his daughter to have it, and again, he knows the world she grows up in. It will be very, very different in terms of lots more. Changes in the way people travel. She would probably not want to drive a very very dirty diesel Series 2A. It's now a gorgeous, beautifully finished, but to the untrained eye, just looks like a beautifully restored car. But we still keep a transfer case. We still have high and low ratio. We try and make sure these cars are as true to the character as we possibly can. It's still got leaf springs. Yes, it's got upgraded braking and steering bit for safety as much as anything else. But they're the kinds of clients that we have.
Right. Is it the name Everrati?
Yeah.
Where does that sort of hail from?
So
I can
yeah,
make a guess, but
ever keeping great cars on the road for, in inverted
right,
commas, ever. Rati is the goddess of love, passion, and desire, which is what most of our people, most of our clients have for cars.
right, okay, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, is there a sort of a sell by date on any of your cars? I mean, is there a guarantee on the batteries? Are the batteries going to last a decade or two? And
Yeah, I mean, as you probably know, well, you may know, you may not know. I mean,
yeah.
most EV batteries will outlast a car today. So it's public, it's fairly well-trodden path. They'll certainly way outlast a combustion engine. So, whilst some people are using these daily, some aren't, but they'll certainly last 20 plus years. And let's be honest, the way battery pricing is going, if they wanted to then replace batteries over that period of time, it's going to be almost like walking to Halfords and getting a new pack. But
Right.
that sustainability piece is huge. But again, these aren't for everybody. Our starting price, and I use dollars just because that's what we tend to sell
Yeah,
in. But our starting price is about 250 odd thousand dollars for the Land Rover series,
yeah.
right up to sort of. I mean, we've just done a commission for a gentleman in Texas. That will probably be not touching $700,000. So,
Right.
again, these aren't for the faint-hearted in terms
No.
of necessarily everybody. But what I would say is they genuinely love these things. They are
Right.
once you have them, they are things of beauty. Yes, it's a talking point. I'm sure that again the true classic car enthusiast that's died in the wall and gets under the hood every weekend. It's probably not for them.
Yeah.
But the great but what I would say is life moves on, and obviously I would say actually the fact that pre-war cars are going hugely down in value just because
Mm.
the owners of those unfortunately are dying off.
Yeah.
What we're doing is creating a new life and a new space for these cars, and people can genuinely enjoy them.
No, that's right. And just finally, I mean, what are the most popular ones? You've already alluded to that, but
Yeah. So it's interesting. In terms of absolute numbers, it's almost neck and neck between the Land Rover series and the Porsche. We actually formally launched the Pagoda actually during Monterey Car Week last year. And that actually is, I think, going to overtake both of those models. It suits the car so well.
yeah,
So it's kind of at the moment it's fairly equal across the board. And then we have two new models in development that, the great thing about our business, I suppose, is because the kind of clients we have can technically afford lots of different things. Maybe they have one car for one home and another car for a different part of their lifestyle. So generally speaking, when we launch a new model, we have existing clients also wanting one of those, which is a great place to be. And we're very close to our clients. We are, there's, a few handfuls of them rather than hundreds right now. So we invite them to Pebble Beach. We invite them to, various different events, and it becomes a very nice circle of friends to be involved in, as you can imagine.
yeah. Okay, that's brilliant. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, absolute pleasure. And apologies, there was a slight delay because I
No,
wasn't quite
no,
sure on the
no,
link.
no,
But
no, that's okay. I sort of understand it a lot better now, because
okay,
obviously to me it seems daft. But
yeah,
but you have a client base, and that's great. If you're so
no.
for making things, I don't have any objection. But
No, no, no,
yeah,
exactly. Look,
uh,
again, each of their own and I
it
think it's one
is.
of those things that I genuinely think we are giving these cars a new life and bringing them to a new audience as well. I just a bit of an anecdote. When I was right at the beginning of COVID, I'm a car guy. I'm a recovering petrol head, but I still have some petrol in my veins.
Right.
At the time, COVID, I had, personally, I had a very high-end Porsche, high-end Ferrari. My wife had a G-Wagon. I also had my Taycan. And then weird, I had a Pagoda because I was actually doing some research on
Yeah.
owning a combustion Pagoda. Right at the beginning of COVID, my son was only 5. Okay. My wife said, "Look, can you go and get some bits for the barbecue?" And he openly said, "This is a 5-year-old boy. Daddy, can we travel in style today? Can we take the Pagoda?" And I think again, people forget that these are so generations just love a good design and a
Yeah.
beautiful car. But genuinely, when he's of driving age, the amount of combustion cars on the road will be so small, and being used and actually enjoyed, that actually, we see ourselves bringing those kind of cars to a brand new audience that wouldn't have had the opportunity to drive them in the past. So I think that's just something to bear in mind. If you look at global EV sales, 25% this year, and it's on a massive roll. If you believe Trump, clearly it's drill baby drill, but the reality is he can't afford to take that stance forever, and he won't be around forever. So it's just the way of the world. And again, what we don't want is these cars being forgotten. We want them to be enjoyed. Is the key thing.
Right. Okay. Well, it'd be great if I can check back in with you if I'm still alive in 10 years' time, to
Absolutely.
find out where
And look,
things are.